Did you see the McGregor fight last night?
No, I didn't.
No?
I saw they broke his ankle though, so it's pretty rad.
I didn't even realize it had ended because it was muted, and I was trying to walk Smudge through getting a stream going so he could see it, and I thought the round had ended, and I was like, oh shit, okay, the round's ended. Like, I'm talking to him, and I'm sitting there like looking at the computer and stuff, and then I'm like, wait, like everyone's around McGregor. I'm like, dude, I think it might be over. Like, holy shit, like that was real fast. But up until that point where he broke his leg, it was a pretty good little fight. Like, they were
nice.
They were beating the shit out of each other. It was pretty cool. So, yeah, I hung out with him last night. He told me that you're still in the reserves. I didn't realize you were still in the reserves.
Yeah, I sort of am. I dropped the IRR back in, end of February, beginning of March. So okay. I'm either looking for a new home. I haven't really actively been doing so, or I'm still exploring the idea of going over to the Air National Guard to an ASOS. So
once you're in the reserves, is that one of those things where once you're in, you're kind of in, you can kind of come and go as you want, like once you fulfilled your contract?
Yeah, for the most part, as long as you're non-obligational, you can sort of come and go as you want, which is pretty cool. If people re-enlist, obviously you're getting tied in for a contract, and you've got some hang-ups with that. But if you're non-ob, there's no requirement for you to hang around with the unit or anything like that, or unless you take a bonus, then they obviously got you by the balls for a little bit as well too. So, yeah. But like it is cool. With the IRR, I can't remember him or not. Remember Tom Daggett from First ANGLICO when we were there?
No, I don't.
So he might have left before you got there, but there's a lot of stuff that you can still do in the IRR to work on getting points for a SAT drill year. So whether it be just staying up on like Marine Net courses and stuff like that, or doing your annual PFT. There's some other stuff like the Marine for Life program, where you're able to get enough points and make a SAT year and work towards retirement, even though you're not with a unit and drilling and not on a deployable type status. So
you just have to hit. Sorry, I'll probably cut this piece out. I drank some coffee and it went down the wrong pipe. So you just have to hit your annual training requirements, and that's it.
Yeah, you just need to hit the required number of points per year, which is like I think it's 55 if I remember correctly. And if you're actually affiliated with an SMCR unit, that makes it a bit easier because you get affiliation points and stuff like that. But it's still doable if you're in the IRR. I just need to talk with Tommy D and get more specifics, because I might just hang around and do that for a while before looking to go to the Air Guard or whatever. So.
It's such a weird concept. I think the reserves is one of those beasts you'll never like fully understand unless you're like involved in it, But do you think it was a good transition for you, like to do the reserves? Would you do the same thing again?
Oh yeah. I would 100% do it again, just specifically because I think I'd been out for maybe about 3 months before I checked into Third ANGLICO, and during that time period, I was going into work and whatever else, and work was just sort of it was whatever. But like once I started being able to go to drill again, being around Marines, and start doing cool stuff and train, that actually helped out a lot for me. I think it's one of the things as well too that a lot of people get so jaded with the Marine Corps, and they get out and they're like, I want nothing to do with it. Yeah. And it's something that people do miss, and at least with the reserves, man, like you can chase the dragon a little bit and get your fill of it again. And if you don't want to do anything, you don't need to. So
get your monthly hit of going into the reserves and being around other Marines. Yeah, for sure, man. You're right. Like that's how I felt. Like people asked me if I was going to go in the reserves when I got out, and I'm like, dude, fuck that. I'm like, because I was like, here's my thinking. One, I'm going to go to college, so if I go in the reserves and suddenly I get activated and have to deploy somewhere, there goes. I'm already in my 30s. I don't want to like extend this having to finish my college education any longer than I have to. Two, I was like, I feel like it's going to be all the same bullshit that I just want to get away from. You still have to do like, I don't know, just safety stand downs and just bullshit like that. Like I'm tired of, I'm just ready to be an adult without someone fucking hovering over me. Get your hands out of your pocket. Where's your haircut? Like shit like that. Like, dude, I don't care anymore. I'm kind of over that. And I think a lot of people in our field, for sure, because you get so used to like being professional at your job and being really good at your job, and like we all work together, officers and enlisted, you know, and we're usually a little bit more relaxed around each other. You know, the respect and everything is still there, but it's all still, we understand the seriousness of the job is getting the job done. There's no need to inject other fucking bullshit to for whatever reason. And I don't know. So shit like that is kind of why I didn't like go in the reserves, or I considered it though. And I was like, man, I think it'd be cool. I mean, fuck, dude, I could go to, especially with ANGLICO, you know, it can either be in Washington, Florida, or Southern California, you know, like, can't really beat those options, you know?
I remember trying to talk you into it as well too. And you're dead set against it. So
I was just, dude, when I got out, man, I was just done with the whole thing. I was like, this is bullshit. And it just kind of all the way out the door. I remember my last day at work, my OIC at the MU Fires officer, he didn't come to my going away. He didn't even come to my, like, I'm getting out of the military, like, going away. He called me and was like, hey, man, traffic's going to be bad, so I'm not going to make it. And then the next day at work, he's like, hey, I heard the going away was a good time. It was my last day. He's like, I need you to take care of these things before you take off. And I'm like, okay, man. And I, like, walked out of the meeting, got my car, and left. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Bro. Super nice guy and stuff, but he's a nice guy and stuff like that. But I'm like, that's the kind of shit, though, you know, where it's like, dude, I just spent 12 years in the Marine Corps, and you're literally my OIC, and you couldn't even make it to my going away party or, you know, going away event and shit like that. And it's like, you guys are just, no one cares about the individual. They'll fucking, if you're a person that produces, they will just work you until you no longer produce, and then kick you to the side and bring in the next fucking, you know, guy to do it. And it's, so I just got tired of that, man. And I don't know. A lot of guys love the reserves though, you know, and it seems like a good option. What are the training, like, opportunities that you have, you know, being with 3rd ANGLICO? How often do you, as a JTAC, are you getting like a lot of controls, or are you going out very often and getting to do stuff like that? I know you were just at San Clemente Island recently.
So I wound up IUTing, interviewing and transferring back in 2019. So I haven't been on a shoot in, like 2 years now. So since August. Yeah. So I'm actually coming up on my 2-year interval. So I actually hit up ECMO to see if I can, like, get out there and just get like a control someplace to stay current. But I can't speak for the other ANGLICOs in the reserves, but 3rd, at least when I was there, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity to go down to San Clemente Island for the shoots down there. You know, other events would pop up here and there, you know, back when they still had Scorpion Fires and other stuff. So it more came down to what additional time outside of regular IDTs you wanted to actually put into it. So for me, you know, we just moved to Vegas. You know, the job I was working at the time, I wasn't getting a whole lot of hours here and there. So I would go off on orders a lot of times, even when I was working full time with my last company out in Las Vegas, just because I didn't like my job at all. I would go out on orders as much as possible. I'd be gone for a week at a time, and you know what? Sometimes I'd be gone for a week, I'd be back for a week, and then gone for another week right away. You know, if there's you know, shortages of personnel to fill seats for annual training, you can do the same thing as well, going out and doing that. Interestingly enough, one of the exercises that I like the best was going to Fort Irwin, out to Mtc, and doing rotations out there.
Really? Like an Mtc rotation?
Oh yeah. I've done 2 Mtc rotations, and the reason why I like that is, you know, you're getting away from going to supporting, you know, things like ITX, you know, working with Marines. Like, you're going out, you're working with the Army, you're seeing how the Army works, and you're, you know, trying to interject where you can to help them out and show what capabilities you're able to bring to the fight. And the other cool thing about NTC is that it's non-live fire until the last portion of it. So the entire thing is a force on force. So imagine if there was a legit battalion-sized element of coyotes.
Yeah.
Where they're your op 4 and you're going out and fighting them. So it's a living, breathing, thinking enemy. They're reacting to what you're doing, so on and so forth.
Yeah, the Army does do a pretty good job of that. They had the same thing out at JRTC at Fort Polk. They have so many more people. They can make a battalion of OPFOR, to have on ready for those kind of exercises. And for the people that may not know what we're talking about, NTC is the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. It's the middle of the desert, similar to 29 Palms. And ITX is the something training exercise.
It's integrated training exercise. Formerly EMV, Enhanced Mojave Viper, because I guess they made the sand better, and then you had Mojave Viper before that, and then
some colonel on a planning team has to change the name and tweak it just enough so he can make his time in 29 Palms worth it and get his award on the way out. So it's not necessarily the training that you like working with. Well, you like working with the Army guys better because it's a more different scenery, and because they do the force on force at a bigger scale. Is that what you prefer over the Marine training, or you just done the Marine shit so many times?
No, I like my thing with it was being with an Anglico is by our mission statement, we are not supposed to work with Marine units.
True.
And that was my big thing is that any opportunity that we have to work with Joint Allied Coalition forces, we need to jump on that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
So the cool thing about NTC rotations is depending on what unit's out there, there's always going to be some sort of joint force out there as well. So the last one I did, it was National Guard. It was the 30th out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. I can't remember if they're Georgia or not, but they had because one of those states was the National Guard unit. They were partnered with Moldova, so there's Moldovan soldiers out there as well too. The one I'd done prior, there's a British light infantry unit out there, or a scout unit, or something along those lines. So you get the opportunity to work. Perfect. Yeah, to work everything. And like the other cool part about it too is, with the Air Force being out there, if you get tied in with the ASOS that's there, you can get tied into their comm plan as well. And the last rotation I did, it may not be a huge success to where you're going out and necessarily hitting the big Mets of controlling fires, because a lot of that gets done at the battalion and higher levels. We're able to work more on the small unit type stuff and field craft. Yeah, and integrating at the small level. And then the thing I liked the best was when I was out in the summer of 19, we got tied in with the 116th ASOS early on. Really, really, really great bunch of dudes. And they took care of us for everything, building and whatnot, but they tied us in their comm plan, and we had the opportunity, and we're successful in operating the entire spectrum of comms. So from VHF all the way up to like SATCOM, HF, everything. And like we were successful at it. And, awesome. The times where you actually get the opportunity to do that are very few and far between.
Yeah.
But then specifically with NTC as well, too, something I tried to start working, and I passed the information off to ECMO down at 3rd, is they've got opportunity for a bunch of live fire right afterwards. And these basically like lane training scenarios that they'll do with the ASOS guys afterwards. So there's a lot of really good opportunity. God, I can't remember what the unit's out there now, but the Ravens, basically the Coyotes for the JTACs.
Yeah.
They were super happy having us out there, and they had previously worked with 5th Anglico with Master Sergeant Hack, and they were like, we want you guys out here. We want Marines involved as much as possible to have you guys come out and support,
awesome.
Anything as possible. So just the enthusiasm they had, even the Army was excited to have us out there. So just, I think there's a lot more opportunity specific to Anglico in that training, evolution, as opposed to, ITX.
Yeah. We were trying to make that, kind of like a thing when I was still at 1st Anglico. I remember, do you know Bernard Barnyard? He was at 11th Marines.
Yeah.
He was like contacting them through 11th Marines, and I was contacting them through 1st Anglico, and we would be like, hey, any opportunity you can, we'll send JTACs and teams out there to go and work and stuff like that, because the Air Force JTACs that are stationed there, they do the same shit constantly over and over again, so it's probably good for them to get a little break from it. I thought when my team went to JRTC, we went out there to support the 501st, and there was also a company of Brits there. of the Army. There were Army dudes, and then I think there was like 1 or 2 Royal Marines in there with them. And you know, my ANGLICO team, we got attached to work with all these guys, Army guys, stuff like that. I got to work with the Brits. And it is great to like work like actually do it, you know, like get out there and like make it happen in a field environment, because JRTC sucks, NTC sucks. And when you're out there, you're out there. You know, it's like you got to fix shit on the fly. You got to figure stuff out on the fly. It is a great opportunity. And it was also an awesome opportunity for my guys to showcase their skills to the Army guys. Like they had never seen anyone set up like a field expedient antenna. Like my guys were setting up an antenna to shoot a unamplified HF shot back to Camp Pendleton from Louisiana. And they're like, what are you guys doing? You know, they're like watching us build it. And we're like, we're doing this. You know, my dude over here is setting everything up, Maltese. And I remember going, hey, if you guys want to learn more about this, let's set up a class like tomorrow. You know, we'll send over whoever you guys want, and my guys will kind of go over it. And dude, like 40 or 50 dudes showed up, and it was this massive group, and they were all like ready to take notes and just start like soaking up as much as they could. And I'm like, this is fucking cool, man, because I don't know, they had never seen any of the shit that we were doing, and it was kind of crazy, honestly. I was like, they hadn't seen tablets yet, like we were using the tablets and stuff, and they're like, what is that? They're like, this changes everything for like the planning and stuff. I was like, oh man, here's the imagery of the area. Like, here, this is what you need. So yeah, it's great stuff, man. I think it's awesome. Did you guys do anything kind of similar to that? Do you find yourselves like teaching the soldier stuff or learning from the soldiers some of the different ways that they're doing things?
So the last time I was at NTC, I learned a bit more from the Air Force, just because we were tied in more so directly with them. And like they don't operate in the same fixed size elements. You know, it'll be a TAC-P and a ROMAD. So we got tied in with them pretty good. And you know, one of the ROMADs is out rolling around with one of the fix that I had. I was operating as assault leader, and the Air Force staff sergeant, I think, he basically hung up with us and up at the battalion level, and he really enjoyed that too, because you know, he got to see how we do business, where you know, we've got a headquarters type element, and we're able to split the responsibilities or whatnot. And he was just like, holy crap, he's like, this is so awesome. He's like, normally it would just be me trying to do all this, and it's just juggling a lot of stuff, whereas you know, he was tied in with us, and you know, we'd have rest plans and whatever else, and that's how we did it. You know, if there's radio watch, like we monitored the nets for the Air Force as well too, and if they were trying to get a hold of him, like they'd wake him up, and that was it. So I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. You know, and I don't know how it was at 3rd ANGLICO, but I know at first, you know, when our team was out there working with guys, it was one of those things too where it was a confidence booster for the junior guys, because then they realize how much knowledge they actually have when you put a lance corporal up against, you know, a specialist in the Army that's kind of in the similar fields. These lance corporals coming from ANGLICO or corporals coming from ANGLICO don't understand. Some of them don't understand the breadth of knowledge they have on comm and fire support and stuff like that. You know, and the Army just doesn't, because the Army just doesn't do that. You know, I remember we were in Kuwait one time with my team, and we were going to OP-10 to do a shoot there. And we rolled up, and there was a group of soldiers there. They were doing like a HIMARS shoot, and they had some mortars and stuff. And we're like, hey, man, we got Apaches coming in. And this kid was like, hey, we'll shut them off. And I'm like, or we'll shut off the HIMARS. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, we got 10 minutes till the Apaches show up. I was like, let's do a SEAD with the HIMARS. And he's like, what? We could do that? I'm like, why can't we do that? You know, like... You say we can't. Yeah, you're controlling the HIMARS, right? I got the helicopter. Well, we're talking. Let's just make it happen, man. That integration doesn't really, they don't see that at the down at that lower level like we do, you know. Yeah. So that's always a good. I think that confidence booster is really good for the guys to kind of showcase like what they actually know, you know.
Yeah, and that was one of the really interesting things. I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I forgot about it. Was even seeing the struggle that the Air Force guys, the ASOS, had to deal with out there, because even though they're the experts when it comes to controlling aircraft, they're directly supporting the Army. The Army is still the one who pretty much runs the airspace and owns things. And the Army solution for integration is, we're just going to fire, you know, already in, you know, mortars and you know, rockets and everything. Just give the airplanes a stay above. and and they're like, that's all you need to do, or they're just like completely shutting things off and just, and it's by no means a knock on them. It's just that they fight differently, and they don't have the fixed wing asses built directly into them, and they just don't have that same level of familiarity that the Marine Corps does with actual integration. And you can tell the Air Force guys really wanted to do it, but just the level of unfamiliarity sort of prevented that from happening.
It's part of the organizational structure of the Marine Corps. That's the good thing about it. I mean, look at how many pilots are doing a ground tour at ANGLICO. Like how much knowledge is that of dudes that are coming straight from their flying tour, their first flying tour, and probably are at the close to being the top of their game at that point, being able to come in and talk about their platforms and kind of give that information. And then then now they can also learn what the fire support side is doing. So when they go back to flying, they know like, hey, that battery is receiving the fire mission right now. It's going to take them a couple minutes while they do all this stuff. That it's just all part of it. It's just, it's the way to go, man. And it's so much cooler too when you got fucking, already blowing up, got F-18s coming in right after that, dropping a bomb, and then you got other stuff everything just blowing up at one time. That's the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man. Yeah. I don't know. That's the stuff I miss. Like, thinking about that is the stuff that I miss. Like, I'd like to go back out to the OP and, get a control or two or watch it and stuff, because that's some good times. And being out in the field, like an NTC or something like that, like it does suck, but it's one of those, like, you miss it kind of deals because you're away from all the bullshit. You're out there in a place where you can't get cell phone signal or anything like that. And like, you're just doing what you guys are doing. And a thing I've kind of grown to appreciate since I've gotten out is that, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, I think, but we were saying how like, you just get used to being like, well, this sucks, but let's just fucking do it. Like that Marine Corps mentality of like, this sucks, but it's got to get done. So just, there's no reason to sit here and complain about it, or I'll complain about it while I'm doing it, but I'm still going to get it done.
You get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's, there's not very many people out here in the real world that'll live by that mantra. They'd rather like just bitch and moan about, whatever the problem is, rather than kind of like figuring out the solution and working towards it. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, man. Do you find it hard to balance like being in the reserves and, having a full-time job also?
Now I don't, just because I'm in the IRR and I have no obligations.
Yeah.
For a while I did, even though I didn't I didn't necessarily enjoy two of the jobs I had been working after I separated. Like I would still feel sort of bad when I'd be gone for a month at a time, and then back for a week or two, and then gone right away again, just because like I know that's where I'm supposed to be. So I'd feel a little bit bad about it, but I didn't really have any major squabbles with doing it, just because. So I mean, it definitely can get taxing if you're gone a lot. I mean, there are times where it's almost like I was still on active duty, because it's like, all right, cool. Like, tell my wife, I'm like, all right, like I'm going to be gone for another, 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to Canada for a month, and then I'll be back for a week, and I have to go out to, Fort Irwin for a month after that. And then, oh, by the way, I'm gone for another week, 2 weeks later. So.
And you love every moment of it until you have to, like, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's very selfish. We're like very selfish. We're out having a great time. We're like ghetto rock stars traveling around in shitty hotels, going out and doing controls and getting beers and talking with your buddies and stuff and just having a good time. But it takes a toll, of not being home. Like I think when I was at First Anglico, man, for a while, because there was not very many JTAC evaluators on the West Coast or more senior people, they just needed people for exercises. I was gone constantly, and I'd come back from being in like Gila Bend or something for a week, come back on Friday, and they'd be like, hey man, you have duty today. Did you know that? Like, oh, what? And then I'd roll right into like a duty or something. I'm like, man, you motherfucker. And that happened like constantly. But yeah, it was to a point where I was probably gone, probably on average like 2 weeks a month, just gone doing shit. And that's not even during a workup or anything. That was just, we're just out doing our normal training and stuff. So yeah, it's a good time though, man. Going out and spending taxpayer money, at the range and stuff like that, shooting thousands of rounds and stuff. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah, going out and just slinging bombs and whatever else. Working with rotors. And yeah, it's a great time.
And like you were talking about being with Third Anglico, going out to San Clemente Island, like Jesus, dude, that place is great. Like regular people that have never been out there, it's just an island off the coast of California, like 30 or 40 miles out there. So what's awesome about San Clemente Island is nighttime when it's clear, and it's so dark because you're not close. You're 30 miles away from the shore, and there's no light on the island except for one little piece where the people are living. So you just see all the stars and all the
Yeah, it's awesome.
The views out there are just amazing. It sucks for anybody that's never gotten to go. It really sucks for the 086-1s that no longer get to go through there for MOS school for naval gunfire.
They don't go out there anymore?
No, dude. So they transitioned, or they're in the process of transitioning naval gunfire school from Coronado to Fort Sill. All of it's going to be at Fort Sill.
Oh,
yeah. Super gross.
That's terrible.
No free trip to Coronado.
Yeah, that sucks.
Man, it's super lame, man. Hey, I get it though, because I guess half the time there wasn't a ship to support the live fire exercise, so they're like, yeah. But to me that doesn't make sense. It's like, instead of moving them to somewhere where they're never going to get like real live naval gunfire experience, maybe when they get to the fleet, why not up that Isn't this a capability we would want when we're fighting China and these island hopping campaigns that we're talking about, this pivot to the the Pacific and all that stuff? It feels like naval fire support is going to be important on that list.
I mean, one would think. I mean, I don't know what goes on up at the way higher levels, but I mean, I guess they're apparently smarter than us, and
obviously
that's not a thing. I mean, I guess that's why they got rid of, or they're in the process of getting rid of so many cannon units, switching to HIMARS, which you're losing a very, very large capability there. I mean, personally, I think that's something that's going to come back to bite us in the ass if we ever have to use it. You only have what's it supposed to be, like 2 cannon battalions or something like that, or just it's something crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like the HIMARS and cannons flip from what it used to be, where there was one battalion on each coast of HIMARS, and now it's going to be one of. It sounds like, I don't know the full details. Someone else told me also now that they started this recon sniper school. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't heard about that.
So recon has their own scout sniper school that they can send their guys through. For whatever reason. And somebody was telling me that they're talking about getting rid of just regular snipers, and if any snipers, battalion snipers, will all go to the recon sniper school, and then they won't no longer be with the battalions. There will be attachments or something. I don't know the full details, but I was I could just be talking out of my ass right now, but I remember hearing that and being like, they're getting rid of the snipers too, out of the battalions. That's crazy.
If that's the case, I mean, they're losing a huge asset right there, at the battalion level. I mean, and that's where the Marine Corps likes to fight, is at battalion level. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think they would still get them, but they would just be attachments, kind of like your FOs come and attach to you before the deployments and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows what's going on, man? What do you think about this pullout in Afghanistan? So for those that don't know, maybe they hadn't listened to the previous podcast with me and you. We were in Afghanistan together with 3-6 in 2011 during 3-6's second time into Marja. You were out in, not Shikvani. Where were you at? You were in the eastern part of Marja.
Yeah, we were over the eastern portion, yeah. Yeah, over, right over on the border of Trucknawa.
What's your take on this, withdrawal from Afghanistan?
I mean, obviously it sucks seeing it happen, with everybody who'd been there, us haven't been there and everything. But I'll say at some point the Afghans do need to take over. I think it's a bit of a hasty pullout. I just read an article last week. I think it was up at Bagram, where I guess the U.S. troops who were there were just left overnight and didn't tell anybody. And the ANA went back, they noticed something wasn't right on, I think it was Friday or Saturday. The lights weren't on, and they showed up on Monday, and the entire base been rat fucked by the locals. So I mean, I think that aspect of it, of just pulling out, it probably isn't the way to go about it. But at the same time as well too, I mean, we've been there for so long. Progress isn't made. I mean, do we need to continue to drag it out? Especially with the way that the the focus has shifted, and that's not even mentioning that, you know, we went in there in 2001 specifically to topple Al Qaeda, try to find Osama bin Laden. Left for like 2 years, and then we're like, we need to go back to Afghanistan.
Well, we never left. We just there's very few people there.
Yeah, it was like a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
So
it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder what our relationship actually was like then. Like, if we left, if that actually occurred, that they left without them even knowing for a day or two, then what the fuck were we doing with them anyways? Were we even helping them at that point? You know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I'm like, it's a bummer. I think there was a lot of good things that could have happened. I think a lot of people that have never been to Afghanistan or don't know anything about it are forming an opinion that is completely ridiculous. You know, some of these people are just some opinions I've heard are just absolutely retarded. Which isn't, you know, the best word anymore, but whatever. But it's just like, dude, you literally have no idea what you're talking about right now. Like with what's happening. What's happening is well, look, after 20 years. If they're so corrupt, you know, you can't even give them gas to fill up their planes and their vehicles and stuff because they steal the gas and sell it. We get them new uniforms, they sell the uniforms. We find them in the bazaars later on. You give them weapons, weapons get lost. These companies and battalions have rolls, tons and tons of ghost soldiers on their rolls so that the commanders can collect extra paychecks. You know, this is the kind of shit that ruined Afghanistan. It's not... people saying that we didn't do a good enough job or we didn't try hard enough. No, man, at some point, the Afghans have to fucking step up and take control of their country. And you know what? They chose corruption over actually becoming a good force that could fight back against the Taliban. And now we're seeing the results of that. And the results of that are tons and tons of ANA just giving up their arms immediately. Some of them are being killed. There's been a few videos... There's a lot of videos of them just being released and hey, don't fight again, and that's like a good PR victory for the Taliban to show how nice they're being. But there's some videos that are coming out also where they're detaining these guys and then executing them on the spot. And man, it's going to be tough, especially out in the outskirts away from Kabul. All those little villages and shit like that. It's going to be rough living for those people, but they had a choice to make, man, and people could say that we went in and ruined it or whatever, but no, like the people that have lived there for the last 10 years have probably been living better than they were under the Taliban's rule. You know, now they're going to come back to that and be like, "Fuck, we fucked up." You know, in my opinion,
I think it's one of the things too. I mean, you look at it historically. I mean, Afghanistan has been, you know, invaded by, you know, how many different people? I mean, you know, you can call us going in there our incursion and invasion, if you want to. I mean, it was, you know, the Russians were there, the British were there. That country has never been conquered by anybody. The only time that there was some sort of, you know, peace was going on when Alexander the Great went in and, you know, lived there for, you know, a very short period. But
I don't consider our attempt an attempt to conquer it though. Because we didn't try to do that. Because that would be like, you know, installing our own government and like forcing them to do things a certain way. And that's the thing, is that's why when people say we lost and we didn't do this and that, it's like, dude, we could have gone another step and actually kind of ran the country and made it a better place. But people would have liked that. And we don't want to be that country that's annexing other countries, obviously.
Yeah. So obviously we weren't trying to go in there and conquer it, but you know, the amount of countries that have gone in there and tried to enact some sort of change. I mean, it's been
a lot.
You know, historical strikeouts for everybody who's gone and tried to do that. So
sounds like China might step up to the plate next.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
I think China has a better chance of like stabilizing the country than we do, for the mere fact that they don't have the same kind of human rights considerations that we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many times did we not do something because there may be a person in that building, that may be an inhabited spot, this may not be a combatant, which kind of blows my mind when you hear all these stories about they're like 90% of the drops in Afghanistan killed civilians or something like that. And I'm like, how, man? I mean, all the ones that I witnessed, we were...
Yeah, with all the steps that were in place, like, yeah, that seems like a...
That must be the CIA slinging hellfires at shit and just, like, hoping they're hitting stuff. Because I know at our level, you know, in the Marine Corps, battalion level, regimental level, the clearance for any fires is pretty thorough, you know? And it was like, oh, this dude walked underneath an awning for, like, a half a second. You lost sight for half a second. That could possibly might not be the same guy, so now we have to reconfirm that he is the same guy. That's the level of like detail that we were coming down to, and I think people don't realize. They think we were just slinging rockets and missiles and shit at stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, Afghanistan, man.
Yeah,
it's an interesting
place.
Time. Interesting. Did you go to Iraq? Just Afghanistan?
No, only Afghanistan. I missed Iraq. So.
Yeah. I almost did. I mean, I didn't really do anything. I was there as a mechanic, you know, sitting on TQ. Turning wrenches in the fucking heat. That made me
going off on the log flume ride on the off time. I heard that they had one of them there.
On the what?
On the log flume on the water rides. You know, they had a water park there, right?
Oh, you're thinking of Al Assad. There was no water park there, but I went there to get my eyes checked for my lat move, and there was a theater, and I remember seeing Wolverine origin stories at the theater, and then getting a Subway sandwich. I'm like, This is the war. This is war, huh? Like I'm grabbing a Subway sandwich and watching a movie. Like this is kind of weird. That's when we know we've been in somewhere too long, you know, like that. Or I don't know. That whole shit's just crazy. I think Afghanistan, like again, we need to stop wasting money there. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to send in special operations units to take care of like hot pockets or like, hey, there's a really high up guy that we want to, you know, take out. Fucking then go do that, like whatever. But to keep in a rotational force of battalions of people, regiments of people there, it's just a waste of time. It has given us more combat experience and logistics experience and all that than like every other country. You know, like we have more experience now, like managing combat forces than anyone else. But you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say at this point as well too. I mean, like you said, it's a bit more in the realm of. You know, work for the ODAs to go do. I think that's the other thing as well too is, you know, now I'm not saying that, you know, the Marine units and Army units that went there didn't do a good job because, you know, a lot of them did, but, you know, you're having people go in and almost do like FID where they're in there training the, you know, the local nationals, but you know, a lot of people don't have the same mentality that the SF guys do, you know, to, you know, deal with that constant struggle and, you know, look at the Marine and Army units. A lot of them just had the, you know, mentality of like, oh, you know, fuck it. Like, I know this is what we're supposed to do. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do this with them. It's like, well, like actually you're sort of, you know, shooting yourself in the dick then because, you know, the whole point is to get these guys trained up so that way we don't need to be here. So I don't know, that's just my 10 cents on that is that right there is a job that is, you know, perfect for Army Special Forces, but obviously not an entire nation at once. Yeah. You know, try and do it just because, I mean, even with them, they don't quite have the ass to, you know, do that. And, you know, we've got a lot of guys who are, you know, your average 0311, what do they want to do? They, you know, they want to get the gunfights and sling lead or whatever else and not necessarily, you know, train the Afghan army. So it's, it's a bit of a quagmire. So,
and the SF guys, the special forces guys, that is their mission and stuff like that. But they're such a small, you know, it's so selective to even get it into that that they have a hard time covering down. And that's why the Army just came out with their new advisor brigade. It's either advisor brigade or advisor battalion. I think it's a brigade, which received a shit ton of hate from all the SF dudes because they're like, because they got a beret and then they got a tab. And it's like one of those, oh, you guys are like the wish.com version of, you know, Green Berets. Like you didn't have to earn your tab. You didn't have to earn your beret and, you know, shit like that. But it's like you got to take you got to get a bigger pool of people. They're not going to be good at doing direct action stuff. Like SF guys will also be good at that. But, you know, if they can focus on just the advising, then maybe it takes a little bit of the lifting off their shoulders. I don't know. Being an advisor is weird, man, because you run into people that do want to, you know, make their country better. Like they want to learn, they want to understand the processes and stuff like that. And then you have all the fucking shitbags, you know, that just like they're there to collect a paycheck or whatever, you know, but they don't actually want to go out. And don't get me wrong, I was an advisor in Sangin, and those guys, I'm like, man, this has got to suck. Like, you guys live in Sangin, Afghanistan. You know, you're there for, I don't know how long they kept their soldiers there. I think it was over a year before they would rotate them to somewhere else in the country. But being constantly attacked, we lost a lot of Afghans. A lot of our A&A were killed out there. So I could see why someone would be like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, here's the alternative. Taliban's taking over. Now you got to do what they say, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We had a guy one time shoot himself in the foot so he didn't have to go out on patrol. An Afghan. I'm like,
yeah, that's one way to do it.
You'd see him on crutches walking around, and the Afghan sergeant major would be just yelling at him, talking shit when he'd see him. Be like, you're a piece of shit, you know? Sergeant Major Hassan. I wonder if that guy's still alive.
We bear be a grizzly.
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder about that sometimes. Like, is so-and-so alive? Is this guy? Hassan was I think he was an old Mujahideen dude. And then he became the sergeant major, and this guy he got NJP'd from the Afghans they took some detainees, and one of them was, like, they were handcuffed, and I guess one of them was talking shit to the battalion commander, the Afghan battalion commander, and was just like, blah, 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 fuck you, you can't do anything, and all this shit. And the sergeant major was like telling him to shut up, and he wouldn't listen, kept telling him to shut up, and he started talking shit to him, like, you can't do anything, you know? And he pulled his pistol out and shot him in the head, killed the dude. He goes, his face comes off. Like, he's telling me, his face comes off. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, so I get NJP'd. And he was supposed to be on restriction, meaning he had to be on base for like 6 months or something like that. Like, he had gotten in trouble.
God.
So he just went home. And then someone else, he shot someone else like that too, because someone else was they had detained him, and then the guy came back to the base after he'd been released and was talking shit to him at the gate. And was just like, la, 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 you know, like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And the dude killed him.
Dude, that's crazy.
This didn't happen while I was there. This happened before I got there. And he was telling me about this. And I was just like, okay. We called him the Mafia Don of Sangin, you know.
It's an appropriate title. We
were coming through the bazaar one time, and these little ninja kids, man, as they do, just fucking leap on the back of the Mat Vs. And on one of them, we had wire mesh up, you know, the Hesco wire up to try to protect the back, to keep people from climbing back there and stealing shit. And these kids are like ninjas, man, with like razor blades. And they got back there real fast, and there was an what's the 201 Bravo, the 201 Bravo antenna.
Yeah.
And you know, it's in the big canvas bag and stuff like that. We had the straps from that weaved into the armor so that you couldn't just pick it up. These dudes jumped back there and just cut those straps real quick and got off the vehicle before they could even stop the vehicle, and ran off into the bazaar. And we're like, oh my God, they just took an antenna. Like, what the fuck?
How these kids do this?
And we get back to the base, which is like a minute away, like 5 minutes away. And we're like, Sergeant Major Hassan, like, someone just stole the shit out of our truck, blah, 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 blah. He gets in his Danger Ranger with a couple A&A soldiers and just takes off out the gate, you know, and he's got limo tinted windows all the way around. And the windows are down just enough so you can see his eyeballs when he's looking out the window and stuff. And he takes off, comes back in 10 minutes, and brings us our bag, the antenna, and the antenna wire. But the wire had been cut in half. But he's like, here you go. And we're like, dude, how did you? Like, all right, man, you run this town.
Those kids probably got their asses beat too.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, even he was tired of the kids. One time I got a call, because anytime the ANA would detain someone, they would call us to do the biometrics. And I got a call. They're like, hey, we need the biometrics team over here. We got some detainees, and there's like 6 of them or something. We're like, all right. We come over there, dude. Not one of them was over the age of 10. They were all these like 10, maybe 12 at most. But he was yelling at them. They were coming up and throwing rocks at the post, and I think they were trying to throw rocks at the helos when they were landing or something like that. And so he detained them and put them in the jail cells that they would keep, you know, war criminal, whatever those dudes we would find. Yeah. And until their parents came, and then he like berated their parents and stuff like that, and was like, dude, they're gonna get killed if you don't fucking take care of your kids.
Yeah, I remember when we were in Marja, they our company had that soccer game, you know, the place where, you know, 2 years prior people was that, and right before it got started.
Really? Hold on, I don't remember that part.
Well, I think it was like 2 years before, like, the Marines were even in Marja, like the Taliban would hold like executions in
right outside of Fob Marja.
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, yeah,
that's probably. I mean,
getting there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. I mean, that was the word on the street. But we'd gotten a bunch of like those little little Afghan flags, like the ones on the sticks that you see people waving around at parades, with Afghan flags on them, and the ANA soldiers were handing them out to kids and everything. And I can't remember what the hell happened, but there was some kid who's probably only 14 or 15, but he was easily 6 foot 6'1", something like that. And I think he mouthed off to one of the ANA soldiers that we had, and it was Ali Abbas. He was like he was a platoon sergeant, like acting company first sergeant, everything as well too. Ali Abbas just hauled off and just slapped this kid across the face a few times, and just snatched the flag out of his hand and just berated him. And the kid just like walked away, like just totally crushed. But and it wasn't like he slapped him like barely either. Like it was a straight up man slap. Like he bitch slapped the shit out of this kid.
Jeez.
Oh yeah. And like we were all standing there, we're like, holy hell, like what happened? Like that was pretty awesome. The kid was bigger than him too. I mean, like no shit, the kid was probably like 6'1", 250. Jeez. And Ali Abbas was like maybe 5'10" if he was lucky, 165 pounds, and just cracked this kid, snatched a flag out of his hand, just yelled him a bit, and this kid walked off with his tail between his legs. It was pretty funny to watch.
It's just a different world over there, man.
Oh yeah,
just a different world over there. You know, little boys talking shit to the women, adults and children, women, because they're male and stuff like that, because of the way that, I mean, let them have it, dude. Let them do their own thing. Like we have other shit we can spend money on. Yeah. There's too many other things going on. So you were talking about when you got out, you were doing construction or something, right? Or you were doing something like set production or?
Yeah, so I had a few different jobs. So my first one when I got out was I worked for a year and a half at an aerospace plant in Los Angeles with Silmar, so way up like far northwest part. Mm-hmm. We made transparencies for everything, you name it. I'd worked in the specialty products plant for I forget how long, probably about 8 months or so. Mm-hmm. And we were making windows for Humvees, actually a lot of which went to Humvees that were in Afghanistan for the ANA. We were making for MATVs. I made stuff that went on LCACs. The windows that are on the USS Gerald Ford, just all sorts of stuff, and some other stuff that went out to other government agencies. I want to move over to the actual aerospace side of the plant, and I had a few different sections under me then. I oversaw a lot of the production of F-22 canopies. We're doing the front windscreens for F-15s, F-18s, canopies for F-16s, Embraers, just a bunch of stuff. So I did that for about a year and a half. And in January of 17, we moved out to Las Vegas. Prior to that, so about October of 16, my wife, who was a professional dancer, not a stripper, had gone back into a show.
Just to make that clear.
Yeah, just to be clear, had gone back into a show in Las Vegas, and she was, I can't remember. She was going out there for a week at a time, like every other week, starting in October of 16. And my buddy that I met through her helped get me into the stagehand union out there. I just worked, building trade shows and the conventions that came in. Got a full-time position with one of the production companies as an event rigger, basically doing roadie work. So all the chain motors that lift the truss up that have all the lights and speakers on them, and then sort of strong-armed my way into a project manager position. Nice. That I was in for like a month and a half or so.
Just not for you, huh?
No. I mean, I was going through the hiring process for my current job, and it was a bit more of having a steady schedule as opposed to having to come in on like a Thursday at 11 p.m., work until 7 a.m., and then you're back in at Friday night at midnight until the following midnight. Just the hours were ridiculous while I was still working on the hourly side of it. So
The
money was good, but just the hours sucked.
Is it crazy to watch one of those shows get built? Like watch a whole stage of stuff, like going from like a empty stage or sound stage or whatever it is you're working in to fully like erected, everything's all set up and crazy looking.
Dude, it's out of control seeing that stuff, especially when you see the scale of them too. So if you look at like pictures of CES, at the Sands Expo Hall or at Las Vegas Convention Center, that stuff gets put in over the course of a week, and it'll start on a Friday usually, and it'll go for however long. CES is bigger, so a lot of that will start pretty early. But a lot of these shows, it takes a week to put them in, and everything is stripped down in 3 days afterwards.
Just crazy.
It's insane to see what's going on. A lot of times, like you'll have a show loading out, and there's multiple tractor trailers in dropping off all the gear for a new show, and that stuff's getting unloaded at the same time, and as they're taking down hang points for motors or whatnot for one thing, they're putting them up for the other one coming in. But it's wild to watch.
So it's just a constant flow of people coming in there. That's how they make that money, though. They have to.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully some of those conventions start coming back this year. I think that's probably the plan, right? Or have they already started, do you know?
Yeah, from what I understand, they've started to come back. A lot of the places are starting to get busy again. I'm not sure what the next big one coming in is going to be. I think it's the game show one, or not the game show, slot machine one. I can't remember the name of it right now. That's usually in like September time frame, but that one's really, really big. And then they start getting SEMA and Apex and CES and SHOT Show, and they're all right in on top of each other.
I'd love to come out there and check out SEMA sometime. Did you like get to go and attend the shows? After you got it all set up, or did you just not even want to?
I wouldn't really want to, just because I spent so much time there already as it was.
Yeah.
The only one that I really cared about was SHOT Show, because they did that where I worked at the Sands. So that was cool because we get to see it from start to finish, but we'd also be able to walk around the show floor like the night before the show opened. So for all the new companies that have a new gun or something like that come out, or some sort of new gear, you can walk up to their booth, just finger fuck what they have sitting around, or just start looking at everything, ask their reps questions and whatnot. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so you're actually able to see a lot of stuff up on the front end, which is neat.
Yeah, I've never been out there for that. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. It's like the huge thing going out to SHOT Show, but it makes me wonder, like year after year, how many new innovations are there in firearms? Where you can fill a whole convention center and of stuff. It seems like I mean, you're more into that kind of stuff than I am. Is it stuff getting more repetitive now, or are you seeing actual like innovations in the firearm industry?
Honestly, I'm not sure when it comes to that. There's guys that I know that would be able to answer that, but I know that there is constantly new stuff coming out. Like when the P365 came out, that was the big thing for SHOT Show the 1 year. The last one I did, Mossberg, their little pistol was like the new big thing coming out. So there's little stuff that's coming out like that.
Oh, I didn't know they had a pistol.
Yeah, it's got a higher capacity on it. There are a lot of people like, oh my god, this thing's gonna be a Glock killer, but lo and behold, it's not. Nothing is.
Yeah.
But just a lot of the companies come out with new optics, like when the low power variable optics started getting big again. Night Force launched their new one. You might have seen a lot of that kind of stuff, where when there's new body armor coming out, things like that. Everything winds up getting debuted at SHOT Show. So if there's something new or innovative coming out, or what might be the next big thing, they're going to wait to release it until SHOT Show, just because everybody's going to be there. There's going to be all the media coverage for it and everything else.
Yeah. So speaking of body armor, I was talking to Joel Flores, who you know Flores.
Yeah.
He's an officer. He's a police officer in Arvada, where he actually knew the guy that just got killed out there that was ambushed.
Okay.
If you heard about that, they have to buy their own body armor or wait. As an officer, they have to buy their own body armor or wait on a charity to donate body armor to them. Is that the same as your department? Do you guys do that?
No, and I know a lot of that depends on the agency where you're at. That's one of the benefits of where I am, is all of our duty gear is issued. So like we don't have to worry about, buying a weapon or the body armor or anything like that. I mean, 'cause all that stuff adds up fast. I mean, you're looking at probably, $2,000 or more.
I can't believe they don't provide them body armor though. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're asking these dudes to go out to the streets, you can't even buy them a vest to at least throw in the trunk in case they need it.
So is he talking about his like his regular soft armor or like sappy plates?
Like sappies and like an actual vest, like a tactical vest.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm not sure, man. Like a lot of stuff. I mean, as you know, it all costs money.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what the agency's budget is and everything else. So we fortunately have rifle plates issued to us and plate carriers. I don't like the plate carrier that was issued, so I've got my own that I use. But yeah, just
what kind do you use?
It's Peraz Designs. It's fairly similar to like a JPC. It's very similar in design.
Okay. Do you wear that all the time, or is that something as like a just in case kind of thing?
No. That's just a just in case kind of deal. That's our part of our active shooter kit. Our normal issue is just the soft armor with a trauma plate in the front. Right now we've got I think about 6 or 8 officers experimenting with external carriers. So ones that are a bit more similar to interceptor vests.
Yeah.
And just the thought with that is getting as much as you can off of the duty belt. So that way it's better weight distribution. It's less strain on the back and everything else. So we'll see how that goes and what the decision is with which one they want to go with.
You got to throw some suspenders on that duty belt. Keep it up a little bit.
Dude,
is that hard to? How heavy is that belt? I mean, what do you carry? A pistol, handcuffs, probably 2 mags.
I've got Glock 17 with a mag, 2 spare mags, 2 sets of handcuffs, pepper spray, a radio, taser, an extendable baton, which I'm probably going to switch out for the wooden straight stick again, and a tourniquet.
Why would you switch it out from the baton to the billy club?
Just more so because the way the belt is and the way everything's set up right now, I've got the extendable baton canted at an angle, and the angle it sits at sort of pushes the radio further towards my back, and I want to have the radio on my side. So like the back side of my belt, I keep it as clear as possible. Just that way, like when I'm sitting in the car and whatever else, I don't have the extra pressure and whatnot, keeping you sitting in like an awkward position. So I try to keep everything at the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and forward. So the radio just sort of get pushed back by it a little bit.
Are they pretty flexible with how you set your own gear up, or is it? I'm sure there's a certain protocols like the whole taser on your offhand kind of deal. Is that?
Yeah. So for us, we do taser offhand. Like really the big main sticking point for us is your magazine pouch is as far forward as possible. Center line, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, so it's gonna be right against your belt buckle. Just simply because it makes reloads faster coming from the center line like that. Outside of that, there's really no guidance that they have for it. It's pretty much up to the user at that point. So I've got my mags right up front, and then opposite is my handcuff pouch.
In the Marines, we like train a ton. We do all these ranges. We go to different like mount towns, like all this stuff because we might interact with certain people or we might get in a gunfight and stuff like that. Whereas as a police officer, you guys are like on the streets every day. It's not, there's no like training and then go on the streets. Like, there's no ITX and then going out to go do whatever you're going to do. It's just an everyday thing. What kind of training do you guys integrate into like your schedule, if at all? And like, I don't know, man, there's so much, there's so much hate in the media and stuff right now for police officers and people saying they're undertrained and stuff like that. Can you kind of tell us what kind of training that you guys do focus on and stuff like that to kind of make your interactions with the public better?
Yeah. So for us specifically, Training will pop up fairly regularly. We moved to a different schedule. Everything had been done on Wednesdays. I'm not sure if we're going to stick with that or not. But defensive tactics, or DT, is something that is emphasized very heavily here. So whenever we do something that's DT related, there's going to be some sort of scenario or multiple scenarios or situations built into it. And a lot of the times, you're blindfolded going into whatever it is, and you're opening up your eyes, and there's just somebody standing there in this room you're in, and you're going to have to, react to what's going on. So it might just be somebody who's unarmed, or somebody who is, and then from there you're going through your steps. So it might be something where, it could be a lethal force encounter, or it's something where, you might just have to talk somebody down, or use a control hold and effect arrest out of it. So we do a pretty good job overall of making sure that everybody's schooled up on doing things. One of the last ones we did, I think it was maybe about 2 months ago, they had everybody, every patrolman, to include the senior officers, go through and demonstrate every handcuffing technique that we have. And the defensive tactics instructors then basically graded everybody and scored them on how well they did, if they're going through the steps properly, or not, and would basically do, I don't want to call it remedial training, but refresher training for them, if they were way off the mark on it. But we're very good with integrating in some sort of scenario or situational type kind of training going on. To where it's not just, all right, you're going to the range and you're shooting paper. It's like, no, like, you're going to go in, we're going to have the DTAC staff there, and somebody's going to, act a certain way, and you're going to decide, all right, can I talk this person down? Do I need to use a control hold? Does this person, are they looking like they're going to actively fight, where you can use a taser or something along those lines? So we do a pretty good job of making sure everybody's well versed and ready to react when the time comes.
When over the last year or so, have you seen changes in your training? Has it shifted away? Like, were you guys using any kind of blood chokes or anything like that? That's something we get taught in the Marine Corps. We used to do to each other all the time. Is that something that was acceptable now, not acceptable, or?
Yeah, so I was still in the academy at the time of everything that happened in Minnesota with George Floyd, and right afterwards, the state post said the carotid control restraint is no longer acceptable. Even though that wasn't a carotid that was used, they basically said, hey, you guys aren't going to use this anymore. And from what I understand, I haven't been out here doing this for a whole hell of a long time, but the way it was treated with us and the way we were taught before it was banned was that it was up on the level with lethal force, because of cutting off the blood supply going up to the brain and everything. And there's a lot of stuff you have to do afterwards. Put somebody in the recovery position and activate EMS right away. So it was treated very seriously as it was. And the unfortunate thing is that can negative things happen from doing that? Absolutely. But was that a good tool to have in your toolbox that you could use in a situation where it's needed? I.e., somebody's, an officer's on the ground, mounted by somebody, getting the snot kicked out of them, and you don't have a good backdrop, to, I don't know, do whatever. Something where you previously could have, put a carotid on this guy, knock him out briefly, is now gone. And you just have another tool that's, taken out the tool belt. So it's now, all right, is a taser going to be effective on this guy? Is he high on meth or PCP? Is he going to feel a baton strike? Is he going to feel a taser? Is it going to have any effect? Is pepper spray going to work on that person? Probably not at that point. So it was a very good tool that was taken out the tool belt that wasn't used too terrible often. That it's just sort
used
of
as necessary kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it isn't like people were just going out and throwing
blood choking everybody.
Yeah. Throwing subjects in carotids, but it's something that would be very useful. Given a certain scenario where it's not an option now. If somebody's high on enough meth or PCP, they're not going to feel stuff, or they're going to be able to fight through it. And then, you wind up having to find some other way to, take this person into custody. Then you're going to have to wait for multiple people then, and whatever else.
Yeah. I can't imagine being so fucked up I don't feel a billy club to the knee. Like, that's crazy. How often have you seen, like, in the real world, how often have you seen, like, tasers deployed and not be effective?
I personally haven't seen it. I haven't seen a taser deployment at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the one opportunity when there was going to be one, like as soon as it came out, the guy got down on the ground. I have heard of them though. The new taser that we have is very good. It's got 4 probes in it. So the thought behind that is, if the first 2 aren't effective, then you've got 2 more that are going out, and it's got 16 cycles. So you're getting a lot more stimulation to incapacitate somebody for enough time to get them in handcuffs. So, but it is out there. Or if both probes don't hit, or if both probes hit too closely, that's when you're looking at having issues. Or if somebody's just super messed up, they can fight through it.
So it has 4 probes, so it shoots 2 at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's got 2 at a time, and if those 2 don't work, you can shoot the other 2, and those 4 should be enough, hopefully, to allow you to get somebody in handcuffs.
Man, that's so you guys have to get tased and stuff in training, right? And that part of the whole gig.
I've been tasered twice. Once was at the academy, the other one was in college. I volunteered to have it done, and it's
volunteered right outside of a bar in a stupor.
No, I actually volunteered because fraternity got in trouble because somebody's throwing beer bottles off a roof in a place in downtown Fort Worth, and I just come back from the gym, and they're like, "Oh, like this guy will do it. Like he's crazy." And I thought the guy who came to talk to us was joking. And he was all right. He's like, "Get up here." I'm like, "Oh, you're serious?"
I'm like, "Oh, we're doing this, okay?"
Yeah, but no, man, it's not fun. I mean, it only goes for 5 seconds, but it feels like you just got done with like a 45-minute full body workout.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It just the only way I can describe it is the first time I got hit in the back, and then this last one they just put the probes on both my ankles, so it went up.
Oh man.
Through my waist, back down through my ankles, and I felt that on my nuts afterwards. But the best way I can describe it is you just feel like you're being crushed, just because your muscles are contracting like so quickly and everything. It's really uncomfortable.
Does it amaze you that people can fight through that feeling and continue to like charge or whatever?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can totally see it. I mean, if somebody's high on central nervous system stimulant, so like meth, I can see how they're going to be able to go through that, just because they aren't feeling a lot of what they should be. But it's if you're not messed up, it's really uncomfortable.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people get tased and different things while I was in the Marines. In training, they would do it on ship and stuff like that, I remember. And then I also would go to the Marine South Expo that they would have on Camp Lejeune. You remember when they would show all the new gear and all that stuff? And I would sit there and kind of hover around the booth that had the tasers, because there was always a group of dudes that would come by, and they'd convince one of the dudes to volunteer to get tased. So I just sit there and watch dudes get tased, be like, man, that was crazy. Walk around the corner, then a new group comes around the other corner. They're like, oh, let's do this. And so that was always pretty entertaining. But man, I couldn't imagine, dude. Just fuck. It's like, dude, just comply, man. Or at what point, when you're talking about someone that's all fucked up on drugs and stuff, are you like, man, this person's not going to comply? Like there's nothing that we can really do. Is there ever a situation where you just kind of have to wait them out, where you're just sitting there like trying to keep them kind of cornered, where they're not, endangering themselves or other people, but just kind of wait out like whatever it is that they're fucked up on?
Yeah, so like an instance like that, where like if you can tell somebody's super hyped up, like you're going to wait till you get additional units there before you have to go hands on or something along those lines. That way there's no additional danger posed to the public, because at the end of the day, that's the big thing, is keeping the public safe. and affecting the rest of whoever it is. So if it's somebody who's, high on PCP, which comes around every once in a while, but PCP makes you 10 foot tall, bulletproof. They're generally going to have no clothes on. They're going to be, sweaty and naked, and it'd be, hard to get a hold of. So that's definitely not a job for one person, but sometimes, I mean, I've heard some stories where, some coppers have gotten there, and it's a guy who's clearly high on PCP, and, he sees the officer, and they can just instantly tell that the fight was going to be on. And, there's some guys who had to fight dudes who were high on PCP until backup showed. And then, it took 6-7 people to, take them into custody. But the big thing though is, man, it's really just looking out for the public safety. So, do you need to act immediately to, effect arrest and take this person into custody, or do you have, the benefit of time to wait for some additional units to get there?
Yeah.
And sort of calm that person down and go from there. And that's one thing as well too, is, what they were pretty big on, even during the academy for us, was, the attitude that you have is sort of going to translate to the other person. So if you're amped up and I'm contacting you and I'm amped up, that's likely going to keep you in an amped up state. Whereas if, you come in calm, try to talk with the person, and, stay level headed, and I wouldn't really call it, talk the person down, but, as calm as you are, that's sort of going to translate over to the other person. So that's another way you're able to sort of control things is, just going calm. Don't be too terrible amped up, because that can actually translate over to the other person and sort of help quell things before it turns into a bit of a bigger issue. So,
do you guys do very much, or is there any requirement to do ground fighting training, like jiu-jitsu or anything like that, or is it something that people kind of do on their own?
No, so it's something that people do on their own, and it's something I need to get into more, on my own free time, just because there's a bunch of FBI studies that say, I forget what it is, I think it's 70% of all encounters wind up on the ground, and knowing how to roll is going to help out. Our DTAC staff is very good in that aspect. We've got 2 guys who are collegiate wrestlers, one of which has picked up jiu-jitsu. We've got another guy who's blue belt jiu-jitsu guy. Another one who's, I'm not sure what belt he has, but he's really, really good. He won 2 different divisions and took second place in a tournament back in April, who's on the staff. So our guys have sort of changed what's taught. We still teach the post requirements when it comes to everything, but they've started throwing in more grappling and more stand up. So that way it's not just so that way it's not just like the McMap stuff of like, all right, put your hand out. I'm gonna put you in the hamburger twist and do this thing, and then do this wrist throw.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what it was. Like the post requirements are very, very generic.
Yeah.
But our guys go above and beyond to teach more actual ground fighting, and we have open mat every Tuesday and every Thursday for about an hour and a half, where it's a mix of stand up and rolling. So that way, people go in voluntarily to get better at fighting, just because it's inevitable that it's going to happen.
It's a reality.
Yeah.
Man, it's so crazy going into a job like that. Like, it's just hard to fathom. Like the military, like I said before, the military is one thing, but the military, you're training, and then, okay, now we're going on deployment. Now it's serious. But for you guys, it's serious every day. Like, it's constant. Yeah. Like, there's always, you never know what the next day is going to bring, or, I mean, just, it's so crazy. What kind of opportunities? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it isn't even like the next day either. It's more what your next call is going to be.
Yeah.
So, you might get sent out to a loitering call or something like that, and it's just a transient that needs to be chased off. And next thing you know, you're going to a domestic violence call where, somebody's getting the snot kicked out of them, and you have to go to react to that. Or, you're just coming off of that, which is, something highly emotional, and you have to go to, an armed robbery that just occurred, or an armed robbery in progress. So it's a constant it's a constant roller coaster of stuff that's going on, because you literally don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes the calls that seem like they're going to be the craziest ones wind up being nothing really. You get there and the second half, or the suspect or whatever is gone, and you find out that was just an argument. And the neighbors called in and said, "Oh my God, this person's getting the crap beat out of them," or whatever. So it's more of a call to call thing. What you experience in 10 hours is pretty impressive, pretty interesting. Just depending on where you're at, what you're seeing, what the call is. If it's some sort of sexual abuse with a child, or
that's got to be tough.
Yeah, or like the domestic violence. I had to take a bunch of calls, and stuff that dealt with kids, and like those are the ones that like I didn't want to do, and like I'm glad that I got them taken care of. Super thorough on them, for obvious reasons. That there's people that need to be punished, if they're doing
for sure
horrid things. But yeah, I mean, you just the amount of stuff that you deal with on a call-to-call basis, in 10 or 12 hours is sometimes, crazy.
The shitty thing is you're never getting called for something positive. There's probably never like a call to go, join in at a birthday party singing, something like that. It's all negative shit. So having that constant, like, just negative, does that give you like a, I don't know, like a foreboding sense of like society? I mean, you see the underbelly of society that most people they ignore, or, they know it's out there, but they distance themselves from it. Whereas you're forced into it daily. Does that give you a different perspective of like society as a whole and how people really are as people?
For me personally, no, because I mean, it sounds sort of bad, but like I've always sort of known that people are bad in general, and there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on, but it's just more the people that think that life is grand and everything's great and there's nothing bad that actually happens, because they don't hear about it. There is some really, really, really bad shit that happens that people will never hear about, or they'll hear about the wave top part of it, but they aren't going to hear the actual specifics of what happened. And I can talk to you offline about some stuff, but yeah, just some of the stuff that even gets covered in the news where it comes to like human trafficking or prostitution and stuff like that. It'll get put out like, yeah, it's an investigation where people got arrested for human trafficking and underage people.
Really?
But there's obviously, I mean, because of privacy issues, and the ongoing investigation, there's not specifics, but like, man, when you hear some of the shit that actually happens, it's like, dude. But people are just oblivious to what's actually happening, right down the street or across town from where they're at. So I mean, I already had the expectation that a lot of bad stuff happens. But you're just sort of like actually seeing it firsthand now. It's like, oh yeah, it just sort of confirms what what I thought. Yeah,
like, so, that does occur.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really bad shit that happens every day, and you just don't hear about it, or you just hear what is allowed to be divulged for obvious reasons. So
yeah. That's crazy, man. I think here in Southern California, we have a different relationship with human trafficking than a lot of other places, just because of the border right there. And there's constant cartel movement of people, across the border. I mean, fuck, dude, they're finding stash houses constantly with like 50, 60 people and, in them, like just absolutely horrid living conditions. And these, I don't know, man. I can't imagine, especially when you start talking, like you were saying before, start talking about kids, crimes that involve kids and stuff like that. Like, that's just got to be tough. And do you guys have any kind of, I mean, that shit's got to wear on you over time. Is there any kind of like therapeutic what do you guys do? Do you have a psychologist or someone that, or whatever it is that you can sit down and talk to at the department, or is it mandated, or is it something you just do it as you want? Like.
Yeah, no. So it isn't mandated. Like unless you're involved in like a critical incident, like a shooting or whatever, then you have to go talk with the wizard mandatorily. Everything else is all is all on you. You know, we've got a peer support team that's got a lot of people on it that, you know, even like say you have to go to a you know, a child not breathing call, you know, something like that. You know, obviously because that's going to be something that's, you know, pretty traumatic personally. Somebody from the peer support team is going to reach out and, you know, see how you're doing, see if you want to talk, something along those lines. They've been really good over the past year of pushing just like personal wellness. And they're doing like Wellness Wednesday for a while, like all the Zoom meetings. And you know, we even had some people you know, from the department, you know, talk about, you know, personal things that we've dealt with before and said, hey, like, you know, don't wait until it gets to this point. You know, your cup can only fill up so much before it starts to spill over and you're going to start to have problems. Like recognize the signs and reach out to this. So like they're really good about giving resources that you can contact that are confidential. It's not going to come back to you, or you can even reach out and speak with one of the wizards that the department uses for like the hiring process or whatever else as well too, and it's not going to come back on you. So
Yeah,
there isn't really the stigma like there was, you know, probably like 05, 06 with, you know, with the military of, you know, people, you know, dealing with obviously, you know, all the IEDs and whatnot in Iraq where, you know, they want to talk about it for, you know, fear of, you know, the future of their careers. It's actually a bit more encouraged.
yeah, well, that's good.
Here, yeah, to get things taken care of, just because it's not as much of a negative stigma these days anymore, like it had been.
I'm sure it's kind of like the military too, though, where if you're kind of fucked up in the head a little bit, like something's bothering you, I think a lot of times guys first reach out to, you know, their friends, their fire team guy, you know, their friends that they hang out with in the unit and stuff like that. Like I'm sure it's like whoever your partner is, you probably feel pretty comfortable having a discussion with that person, because who else can relate about a situation like that better than someone that might have been there or, you know, sees the same shit day to day. You know, do you think that's like the biggest thing is just, you know, each other is the biggest resource?
I think so, but I mean, at the same time as well too, you know, much like the military, it's also going to be, you know, how willing are you going to be to open up and talk with somebody and say, hey, like I'm having a problem with this right now. So
Yeah.
It's the parallels with law enforcement and military are very, very similar. Like you got a lot of same issues with, you know, people seeing a lot of shit and doing a lot of things, you know, the PTSD and whatever else. But still at the same time, it is 100%, you know, how willing are you going to be to actually divulge that to other people and actually seek out the help?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Self-censoring, you know, you got to protect your own image. Yeah.
Exactly.
So to kind of pivot a little bit, what kind of opportunities do you guys have for like specialized teams, like dog handler, SWAT, or if you call them that, or SRT? I'm not sure what you guys label them as. Maybe like rescue teams. Are there those kind of opportunities on your force, and like how does one kind of prepare for that or get into something like that?
Yeah. So we've got a bunch of different things similar to that. We've got a lot of different staffs that, you know, directly support the academy. So, you know, you've got, you know, defensive tactics staff where they're hands-on with the academy a lot throughout that process and then do a lot of follow-on training with officers on patrol. We've got other guys, if you want to be more on the academy side of it, more academic, you can go there to be an instructor, you know, for specific things. We do have a SWAT team. They are not a full-time team. They are part-time.
Okay.
So, but like the benefit to that is if something happens on a given shift, there's going to be a bunch of SWAT officers who are on it, and they're going to respond directly and be able to help out right away, and then you know, determine if they need to do a full SWAT call out, which will happen fairly frequently. We do have a bomb squad that's limited on numbers based off of, if I remember correctly, some numbers issues with the FBI. So I think it's based off of like total strength dictates how many bomb squad guys we can have. Traffic for us is a specialized unit. You know, you can venture off to go do that, and they've got some pretty good opportunities within there. They've got the accident reconstruction team where they get sent down to a school. I actually think it's down in San Diego, and get taught a bunch of physics and everything. And, you know, they learn to look at, you know, skid marks on the ground and all all sorts of other things when it comes to fatal accidents, and they're able to determine speeds that were being driven, and whatever else. So super interesting stuff, and that's big money on the civilian side then, because you go work for insurance companies doing that. But
do they still do the measurements and stuff like that, or are they now pulling data from cars for I'm assuming your car has that information stored in it?
I can't say for certain because I don't do it, but I would imagine it'd be a combination. I do know that they will take measurements from when I did my traffic week. I was on field training for hit and runs and things like that. We went out, we took measurements, and did the calculations to figure out how fast cars were going.
That's cool.
But there's also some other devices that are used. It's basically like a 360-degree survey camera that will get placed in different positions to actually map out the accident scene. But they're still going back and crunching the numbers to figure out speeds and everything like that. The only downfall to that, though, is that those guys have to work fatal accidents, and a lot of the times those are pretty gruesome, depending on what happens. If somebody gets ejected from a vehicle, or there's a rollover, or things of that nature. But there's one I heard about a few months ago that was I wasn't there for it, but I spoke with one of the traffic guys who was there, and he said it was hands down like the most gruesome scene he's ever seen in like the 7 years or 8 years that he's been on, and it was just bad.
That's got to be saying a lot,
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. Yeah. So you've got that. Then I won't call it specialized, but recruit training officers, basically the drill instructors for the academy. They get hand selected, and they go off and work that for pretty much as long as they want to, until they want to go back to patrol or whatever. Pretty good deal. You're basically working Monday through Thursday, and then you can pick up overtime to stay current on patrol afterwards. But those are all former military guys, and that's definitely a hard job to have as well too. I mean, just the hours they work and everything, and it's a handful.
Do you have do you guys have like a riot team, or is that like a thing where there's a big group that volunteers for that gets together when it's called up?
Yeah, so we do. It's called the CDT, the Civil Disturbance Team, and they come out for any sort of protests or whatever that are going on. They may not be physically present and actually out at the site of the protest. I mean, generally the protests that we've had over the past year have been obviously out in front of the department headquarters. If it's just people out there, with the signs chanting or whatnot. They won't be out, but if it looks like it's going to start going a different direction, then they'll come out. And then we've got our gang unit, which does some pretty cool stuff. And then inside of our investigations division, so the detectives, they've got vice guys who are out working mostly human trafficking. They also work casinos. Like the illegal ones and some other stuff.
Illegal casinos, huh? Is that still a thing? Like people still doing that, huh?
It's still a thing. They'll work that. They work with the state alcohol control board, helping out with enforcement of stuff. We've got our special investigations detectives where they're looking into more, homicide suspects, doing a lot more plainclothes work, surveillance. Things like that, and that's really about it when it comes to specialized stuff.
Were you involved in any of the riots or anything like that? And I'm just wondering what it's like to stand there and have people screaming in your face, and you're just like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here and be stoic and not show any expression and just get yelled at.
No, so I didn't have any involvement in that. I was still in the academy at the time, and interestingly enough, we were actually doing our riot control class while that was going on. But what I will say is that the fact that we had a stress academy where the RTOs are yelling at you and and whatever else. So just think, Marine Corps boot camp where you have, drill instructors in your face yelling at you, and you're getting IT'd and whatever else. Like that's what we wound up having during the academy. There are some guys who were in the one before me who said, hey, like this stuff directly applies because we've been yelled at by all these guys prior to this, and now we have somebody in our face again yelling at us, and you sort of get inoculated to it. So I would say that the places that still do the stress academies where you are getting yelled at, you're getting IT'd, I think it's beneficial because like these other guys said, if you wind up in that situation, it's not the first time that you're dealing with it. You're not going to overreact.
Yeah.
And get baited by somebody who's trying to get you to do so.
Yeah.
So whereas the places that don't run the stress academies, I would guess that you're probably gonna have more problems when it comes to people getting baited or getting overreacted to cause a scene or get caught on camera doing something stupid.
Yeah. So to kind of shift a little bit, we were talking before we started about petty crime and stuff like that, and like in California, or at least in some jurisdictions in California, at least, they changed the law so that anything below like $1,000 is now a misdemeanor. Like if you steal something or destroy something. So there's been a rash of like we've seen, in San Francisco where they're shutting stores down and stuff like that because there's so many people just walking in and stealing stuff off the shelves and walking out and nothing's happening. Is that something that you saw a lot of, that you've seen a lot of, is like these kind of thefts? I don't know if that law applies to your jurisdiction or not. But you want to kind of talk through that kind of petty crime like that and how it's affecting just general?
Yeah. So that was a state mandate. I don't know when they changed the actual requirement between petty theft and grand theft, but it was a few years ago. But it's basically on the point where even in some places, even if it's below the threshold for even a petty theft, they won't even do anything with it. There's no prosecution, nothing will happen. And recently, because of that, up in San Francisco, they closed. Walgreens closed 17 sites because people were going in and just stealing stuff from the store, and it wasn't meeting the grand theft level. It was only petty theft, and the district attorney up there wasn't prosecuting on it, so the crimes are going unpunished. And I would assume as well too that, again, this is just an assumption, that maybe people weren't going to the lengths to try to make these be grand thefts by the means of organized retail crime. And what that is that if there's a pattern established that every week or every 2 weeks, the same people or the same person with a few different associates is going into say Rite Aid, Walmart, and Walgreens, and they're stealing stuff every 2 weeks. It may not meet the grand theft threshold. Might be a petty theft on the individual incidents. But if you're able to establish that pattern, you're able to tie it to be a grand theft based off of the pattern. And because there's a group of people, you can make the organized retail crime, and that's just a big thing overall. Like we've got a lot of organized retail crime rings going on down here, and they're stealing a lot of stuff from a lot of places to the point where it's getting up into the $50,000 range. The one I think it's a Rite Aid that's right in the middle of downtown here. In 1 month, I think they had something like $250,000 worth of loss, and that's just people just going in and stealing stuff. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it really gets back to the fact that it isn't local jurisdictions. It's not the police department that's not doing anything about it. A lot of it is the district attorney's offices just don't see it as a priority to deal with certain things. And they're also handcuffed by the state when the state is changing the requirements for what determines to be a petty theft versus a grand theft.
Yeah,
but it's a big problem all over the state.
That's crazy. $250,000 in 1 month. Like how could you keep that open? Of course they're going to close something like that.
Yeah.
That's unsustainable.
Yeah, it's still open. The one here, it was either in the month or the quarter. I can't remember which one, but it was a staggering number.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I think that site led the country like in thefts.
Jeez. Well, it sucks. And like when you talk about like in San Francisco, where you said like a dozen of those stores closed. Now the people that go to those for everyday things, you know, the everyday people, citizens just trying to go about life, are all also kind of being punished because the district attorneys won't, you know, and I'm not going to ask you to talk about that because, you know, I think that would put you in a weird place to speak on that. But the district attorneys are fucking the situation up by trying to, I don't know, they're trying to let some of these lesser crimes go because they believe that it affects more people of color and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you're affecting your entire community. When you live in an area where you say that this is okay or we're not going to punish it, and the same people they kind of see it. They're like, oh shit, I just did this. I just got $1,000 worth of fucking lipstick or whatever. And now no one's going to charge me for it. Oh, okay, I'll do it again. You know, why not? And they're probably going to go resell that stuff to make, you know, I don't know, man. It's so crazy. That's such a kind of a messed up situation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting overall. I mean, fortunately, the DA's office up here is not like that. And they're all about prosecuting. So, you know, if you're able to build the case and show that, hey, you know, this is going on, there's this pattern, they're going to roll with it. But
yeah,
it definitely has made people more brazen because there's some surveillance that I've seen of people going in and they spend literally no more than 2-3 minutes in a store. They walk in and they'll go up to a display, they'll take a stack of jeans and they'll walk out.
Yeah.
And some of these stores are handcuffed too because their loss prevention agents aren't allowed to go hands-on and detain or anything like that because they're worried about liability then as well too. So it's a bit more of a complex issue, but at the same time, if the crime goes unpunished,
then why stop?
Exactly, people are going to recognize that and they're just going to keep on doing it. So and when it comes to all the thefts up there with Walgreens. I can't say if their investigators went in to try to, you know, establish something when it comes to the organized retail crime, which you can build pretty good cases on. And they can be lengthy and a pain. Talking with a guy that I've been working with, it took him 4 months to get a suspect identified, but you know, he had him for a lot of cases, and guy had a very, very high bail because of it, and it was taken seriously here. So a lot of it just depends on the area and, you know, the length at which, you know, they're going to go to, you know, investigate and then, you know, make the case to the DA to say, no, like this action needs to be handled because of these reasons. But I think it'll be interesting, you know, to see a lot more of these places, you know, especially up, you know, San Francisco or, you know, Los Angeles, places that are tied in a bit more Sacramento. You know, a lot of these cities, what happens when, you know, 20 Rite Aids close on top of the 17 Walgreens? What happens when all these other places, you know, decide to start closing? You know, at that point, will the people who live there,
you're like, fuck this.
Yeah, the ones who support a lot of this legislation of, you know, lessening, you know, the punishment for the offenses or making things more lenient, at what point are they going to have the reaction to say, hey, actually, this is a problem now, something needs to happen? So that's a lot of it, is that people are asking for this and they're getting it, but they aren't realizing what the consequences are until
cash bails and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, man, and I think we're seeing the groundswell of people that are like, fuck this, you know, I'm tired of the anti, you know, American rhetoric, the anti-police rhetoric, the anti, you know, it's like some of us just want to live in like just a society where we can just go to work, go to the movies or something, you know, go to the grocery store, and I'm not dealing with some like crackheads blocking traffic or fucking shooting up right here on the corner or, you know, stealing shit right in front of me while I'm at, you know, Rite Aid, you know, like people are, I think a lot of people are starting to see like the downside, especially, you know, I think over the 4th of July weekend, they said there was like a crazy amount of shootings across the country, you know, which is, I don't know, man. It is what it is, but whatever.
There was, but it was down like 25% from last year or something. But yeah, I remember reading about that as well too.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see out in the I think it was a couple days ago out in the Mojave Desert, they found all these grow sites?
No.
Okay, so it was like, dude, I'm talking like thousands and thousands of plants. I think they said it was more than $1 billion worth of cannabis. It was like 30 different massive, I'm talking massive tents out in the middle of the desert that they had dug their own wells and created irrigation systems and stuff like that. All in LA County too. This is like an LA County thing. If you look it up, it's crazy. People have kind of known about it. It's kind of out by 29 Palms. There's some spots too. There's some videos on YouTube if you look it up. Of drone footage of them flying through the desert, and you just see all these different grow spots that are illegal. So I was going to ask you a couple questions about cannabis because it's such a weird thing, and I feel like the movement to make it fully legal, nationwide, it kind of seems like it's coming. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that's just kind of going to happen. California, Colorado, and these other states that it's already recreational legal and stuff have kind of, setting some precedents for how it should be managed and stuff like that. How is it as a police officer, if someone's going to get a DUI, I know one of the biggest concerns that people were talking about, like, how do you tell if someone's driving under the influence of cannabis? There's no field test, right? You guys don't have any kind of field test that can give you that?
So I'm by no means an expert on that. Our traffic officers are the ones who handle field sobriety tests and everything. So if me as a patrolman, if I come across somebody who I think is DUI, I'm going to call one of them to have them come out and do the FST, just because.
Really?
Just because I don't have the qualification to do it. They are our guys. They are our SMEs for that. Now that being said, there are some ways that you're able to tell. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think it's the horizontal gaze nystagmus, where you do the side by side with the eyes. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, I think cannabis doesn't react to that, because there was an FST that I saw where there was a guy who was high and drunk at the same time, and you could tell he was, because he could barely stand or walk or anything. But when you do the tests on him, he wasn't reacting to them, and it was some weird counteraction between the THC and the alcohol. So
yeah,
when it comes to that, there are signs that you're able to tell. I just don't know them, just because that's not my wheelhouse. That's not something that I deal with. Like I said, we as patrolmen, unless somebody is like fall down drunk, we're going to pass a lot of the DUI type stuff off to the traffic officers, just because they're the ones qualified to do it. They'll write the warrants to take blood samples if need be, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I've wondered, like, how they even for a blood sample, like, what's the baseline level that you're using? Because some people are heavier users than others, so their baseline would be higher. I'm interested in stuff like that. And then, also
I don't even know if anything like that even exists right now. What the baseline level of THC would be in your blood, to determine if you are DUI. So I don't even know if that's a thing.
Yeah. Me and Farrell were talking about this recently. And then another thing, I was going over to his house, and I had a bag with me, because we were going to go over there and hang out for a little bit. And I was like, I wonder if I can get in trouble just driving with this. Like, what is considered, and when you're talking about alcohol, you have open container laws and stuff like that. How does that work with cannabis? Do you know? Like, kind of what does your jurisdiction do with that? Or is that another thing that traffic would take care of?
No. So if I remember correctly, so it's legal by the state, but it's still illegal federally. It needs to be in a sealed container. And I think I can't remember, from a dispensary or from from like a pharmacist or whatever. So I just hit something.
So it's just got to be in a container with the California label on it.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might need to be with a prescriber, for like medicinal. But it can't be one of those things where it's in like a Ziploc bag.
Yeah,
or something along those lines.
Got a J tucked behind my ear.
Yeah, no, I have to look that up and get back to you. Just, that's something that I haven't dealt with.
Are police officers? Are you guys are you guys allowed to smoke at all?
No.
So even though it's legal, you're not at all,
No, because I mean it's like the military. It's up to the discretion of your employer. So I mean, same thing. If you're working in construction, it might be legal in the state, but your employer, your construction company says, you're operating a bulldozer. We don't want you, smoking weed. So
yeah, insurance, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I could see that being a bad thing. Like if you got tested and I don't know, because it's so random. I guess defenses could use that against police officers too. Since there's no real kind of standard for it and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, man. I think it's something that's shifting, and I think it's going to become fully legal, within the next decade or so. It just kind of feels like it's, the tides of whatever are changing that way. But it's just something interesting that's kind of, I don't know. I like to hear police perspective because, obviously you're on the other side of it.
I think if they can figure out a way to actually regulate it and track it, that'll be on the right. One of the bosses I work for, he was a detective working drugs. He got super, super smart on that. And I think the state said in the first year that it was legalized, they were expected to have, I forget how many hundreds of millions of dollars worth of income from it.
Yeah.
And, last year while I was going through the academy or whenever this was, I can't remember the exact time frame. The state had only calculated like $180,000 worth of income from all the legalized companies.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
A lot of it has to deal with the process to be able to get a license.
It's tough.
And then all the other stuff that comes on to it as well too. It's like getting your tax stamp for a suppressor and whatever else. You have to pay for this. You have to pay for this. You have to pay for this.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of the places that do decide to go legal have the problem where people are coming in and guess what? You're gone for work at the night. All right, cool. Like we're going to come in and we're going to steal all your plants.
Yeah.
And they aren't actually making the income then. So like it's there. But it's not tracked well enough. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's still federally illegal.
Yeah.
And those companies that are state-wise legitimately doing it, they still have to launder the money because they can't put it into a bank because banks are federally regulated. So they still have to clean the money somehow to actually show what their profits are. So there's a long way to go on it.
Yeah, I have a buddy who's actually an accountant for one of the major dispensary companies here in California. I'm like, dude, you have like a white collar job at a cannabis company. Like you're doing like legit. And I asked him, I'm like, what's the accounting like? Because it's federally illegal. Like what, what's up with the money? And he's like, man, he goes, we still calculate what we owe in taxes and we pay it. We pay the federal government in tax, the taxes that we're supposed to owe. It's not official because they can't officially charge them for something that they're not legally supposed to be selling. But the federal government still takes the tax money from them. He's like, so we're kind of in compliance where we are filing our, our income and, and actually doing our tax stuff and giving it to them. But it's kind of one of those like, well, you can give us the money, but we can't actually ask you for it because then we're kind of, legitimizing the business when they're not supposed to. So it's kind of a whole weird thing, man. And the permits is crazy because although it's legal in all of California, it's up to the individual cities to decide if they want to allow dispensaries and stuff to be in their city. So a lot of places have said, no, I don't want dispensaries here. So you have to drive. Like when I was in Oceanside, there's no dispensaries in Oceanside. And you have Camp Pendleton to the north, so you can't drive north. And then to the south, you'd have to go to like, there was no legal ones except for, I think maybe Vista had one. But there was a ton of like black market dispensaries. And people are just opening up dispensaries because they're like, dude, the process to get the actual paperwork and stuff takes so long. Like we're just going to open. And they just start doing it that way. And like you said, it's a cash business. And then eventually, sometimes those dudes get robbed. Or they also get raided by the police. The police will come in and shut them down and stuff like that. The dispensaries, I got no problem. I get most of mine almost all of mine comes from the dispensary. The problem with the dispensary is it's like 30% taxes added to it. And here in San Diego, I know I have a few places I follow on Instagram that they do these like almost like a weed farmer's market. You know, they have like an industrial building that someone would set up a CrossFit gym or something in. And you go in there and they have tables all set up and it's just all these weed like vendors and just pounds and pounds and pounds like laying everywhere. And you can go get it at better rates. And it's just like, why would I go to the dispensary? That's when you get to that mindset. Like, why am I going to go to the dispensary and get the same stuff for literally like 25, 30, 50% higher? It's just kind of crazy, but I don't know, man. It is a weird world that we're living in right now with all that kind of. I mean, is that even a focus? Is cannabis even a focus at all for you guys for like law enforcement in your area? I mean, is it even a concern, or are they more concerned with like higher end drugs and stuff like that?
No, I mean, it is to an extent. You know, you'll want finding some of the illegal dispensaries here. I mean, we also have the city ordinance where like none of them are legal, but you know, you want to find the ones that are ran by the gangs and whatever else. But there's just so much other stuff going on here that I can't speak for. Obviously, I can't speak for, you know, the higher ups, but I would say with everything else going on here, that it's probably not that much of a priority. You know, when in comparison, we've got the highest number of gangsters, you know, per capita in the state. You know, last I heard, you know, our murder rate per capita is you know, crazy high as well. You know, meth is all over the place. There's a lot of stuff out there going on that I suspect that I don't think it's that much of a priority compared to other things. You know, if you come across it and you wind up finding out that it's, you know, gang related or something like that, and like, yeah, obviously it's going to get taken care of. But yeah, that's just my perception of it from what I've seen in my limited experience.
It's kind of crazy that because I won't say where you're at, but you're in a pretty big town. You know, you're in a pretty big city. Yeah. And there's no dispensaries allowed there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's what causes people to go to these black market dispensaries that are run by cartels and by gangsters and stuff like that. And I think you kind of like you do with people with firearms, you make people into criminals that aren't really criminals. They're just, this is like, hey man, I'm just trying to get a bag of weed, which is legal, but now I can't get it. You know, I'm not going to drive an hour to go get it legally at a 30% markup when I can get it down the street, you know.
Yeah, and there was a justification that went into it. Again, I don't remember all the specifics of it, but the person who presented it to the city laid out the reasons why they shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
and he laid out a lot of the crime related stuff with it as well too. So and
I get it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's one of those things, man. But it's a weird catch-22. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to be continue run by criminals and induce crime as long as it's basically not legalized, even though it's legal, but you don't allow the dispensaries there. You know, but if you allow them, then yeah, there's some people just like bars, adding bars to neighborhoods. There's going to be some bad things that happen because you added a bar to a neighborhood. There's going to be someone puking out there. Chances of DUIs in that area go up. You know, stuff like that. It's just not a natural occurrence. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, but man, we're at almost 2 hours. So, and I'm just rambling about weed now. So we'll wrap this up. It was good talking to you, man. We haven't talked. I know we message each other constantly. I love doing this with guys I know, especially because, you know, we can kind of bullshit about old stuff, or we know each other better than, you know, so
yeah.
Do you have any, organizations or anything you want to promote or anything like that before we jump off here?
No, I'd say if anybody's looking to, get into law enforcement, you're in the California area, feel free to DM me. We are hiring right now, and we trying to expand. We need qualified people. If you're a military guy, definitely hit me up if you're interested in it. But nah, man, no other reach outs or anything like that.
Cool, dude. Well, as everybody knows, they can hit me up on Instagram at Former Action Guys and at J Kramer Graphics. Both of those. My website's jkramergraphics.com. And Kevin, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll catch you on the next one, man.
Appreciate having me on, man.
Anytime, bro.
Cool.